Hey y'all, what's going on? It's your girl LT, Childfree Black woman, and I'm here with Mrs. Dania Casellas, all the way from Tampa, Florida. She's a child-free Latina, and I'm so happy that I reached out to her, and I'm so glad for this interview as well. So I follow her on Instagram, and I wanted to just make sure first of all, I reached out to her on Instagram and just make sure that she was okay to be doing this interview. So I'm so happy that she said yes. So I am with her today. So Dania, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, LT?
Good. So, like I mentioned before, I started following you on Instagram. I think it was earlier this year, and I think you were on my one of my pages, suggestion pages to follow because I follow a lot of other child-free Instagram pages as well. So, and I just found it very intriguing that especially being a child-free Latina in your community, I was like, let me just reach out to her and see how life has been for her and everything. So, I wanted to just say thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
Yes. So, okay. So first and foremost, we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. But before we do that, I wanted to see if you wanted to just introduce yourself to the audience. Just let them know, where you're from, your career, and maybe like an interesting fact about yourself.
Sure. So, like I said, my name is Dania. I'm in Tampa, Florida. I am 34 years old, child-free Latina. And so my family background is from Puerto Rico. I think I am actually the first generation born in the U.S., even though Puerto Rico is a Commonwealth or part of the U.S., but my brother and I were the first ones born like on U.S., soil, whatever. So life has been good. It's had its ups and downs and everything, but I live a very chill, happy, calm and quiet child-free life with my husband. We like to play soccer. If you know about Publix, which is a very popular grocery store chain in the Southeast, I'm freaking addicted to their cupcakes. And I think that's a special fact about me. I've been a sugar addict forever, and I blame my mom because she has a sweet tooth. But yeah, that's some random facts about me.
Oh, cool. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me. So we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. Well, you just mentioned that your life is very interesting right now, being a child-free Latina. So I guess can you explain a little bit about your upbringing and what was your earliest recollection that you wanted to not have any children?
Sure. So I grew up in Tampa. Family's from Puerto Rico, and most of my family is over there. So I think it's common with a lot of cultures, not just Latina cultures, but having children is just expected of you, right? It's the next step when you're older and whatnot. And even growing up, like most of the family friends, they were all doing the kid thing, getting married, whatever. And even as a young child, I would see older people getting pregnant and having kids, and we would go to the hospital to see the kids, and I was never excited about it. Like growing up, we never played house. Like we did play house, but it never really intrigued me. I didn't have like the little baby Cabbage Patch dolls and that people wanted to play with. I had like Barbies, but it was like the Barbie jet plane and the horse and like the dollhouse, but like playing mommy and stuff was just never really interesting to me. I played a lot of sports. I was kind of like a tomboy growing up, playing soccer, doing track and field. But like nurturing and caring. I don't have any younger siblings either, so I never had to take like that caretaker role like some siblings have to do when you have little brothers and sisters. And I remember my mom telling me once that, oh, well, you don't really like babies because you didn't grow up around them. And I was like, I don't like babies because I don't like babies or small children. I never had that gene, that motherhood gene in me. Yeah, like just growing up, it was more sports and other toys, not like baby dolls or anything. So I think just from a young age, I'd never had any interest or urge, desire to get into motherhood.
Okay. Being in the Latin culture, what are your positive or negative experiences being child-free, being around your family, friends, or even your colleagues?
I've gotten the most bingos from my family. I'll tell you about a couple instances I was in. So a couple weeks ago, we were hanging out at my cousin's house because she was getting married. So we have like crap ton of family from Puerto Rico over there hanging out. And we were sitting next to my aunt, and we got into the topics of kids because my mom was always talking about her grandkids, and everyone starts talking about their grandkids. And then my aunt starts telling Jordan and I, she's like, oh, it's going to be so nice when you guys have kids because they'll be bilingual, they'll be speaking Spanish and English. And at that point, I'm not always in the mood to like counteract someone and be like, I'm not having kids. It's not for me. It just depends on the vibes in the room. There were a lot of people in the room that day, and I was not about to like tell everyone in the world that I'm child free and have everyone bingoing me at the same time. So at that point, I was like, oh, yeah, that would be nice. And then another time I was hanging out with my aunt, and we were at like this thing at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa for like an Alzheimer's walk to honor my grandma who had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And we were watching my cousin's son, so I guess my second cousin, whatever. He was like playing around in the corner over there. And my aunt looks at me and she's like, "Oh, so when are you gonna have kids?" And I was like, "No." And my mom was standing next to me. So my aunt looks at my mom and she's like, "Is she serious?" My mom was like, "That's what she says." And I was like, "Yes, I'm very serious." And then she gives me the other bingo. Well, what does Jordan think? What if he wants to have kids? And I was like, well, then I guess we wouldn't be getting married, or we wouldn't be together if he wanted kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then another time I was on the phone with my uncle recently, and he was congratulating me after the wedding and everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh, so you guys gonna have kids?" And I was like, "Oh no, it's not for me. We're not gonna be going down that route." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll see about that. Yeah, we'll see later on down the road." And I'm just like, so, and it's interesting too because the bingos come from the older generations.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk to people who are our age, millennials, Gen X, even Gen Z, they're kind of like, "Oh, okay." And you kind of like go on with the conversation. No one's like giving you any bingos or telling you you're going to regret it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been noticing that too, how it's interesting how different ages will react differently.
Mm-hmm.
And for my current job, I recently just switched positions. So I was in a different department in the microbiology lab. And there was like 5 or 6 of us in there. Some of us had kids. One lady was childless by circumstance for sure. Because she had asked me once, again, we got on topic of kids at work. And someone had asked me if I wanted kids. And I was like, "No, I won't be doing that." And then she was like, "You don't want kids?" And I was like, "No, I don't." And knowing she didn't have any kids, I asked her, "Oh, so why don't you have any?" Oh my God, LT. She literally almost broke down crying when I asked her that. And she's like, "Oh, I was never able to." I think she had like multiple sclerosis or something when she was younger, and just she was infertile.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I like walked away. That is the last time I've ever asked someone why or if they're gonna have kids or if they don't have kids, whatever. Because it can be a very sensitive subject. So that I learned my lesson not to ask anyone else because it's not any of my business. You don't know what anyone else has been through. But now I'm really fortunate that a lot of my coworkers now in this new department, a lot of them are child-free. There's at least me and 4 other ladies who don't have kids, like by choice, that at least that I'm aware of. Now, like when we're all working together, it's a lot of like talking about our pets or going out to a bar or something and like eating different foods. So it's been really, it's kind of refreshing now to have like so many child-free coworkers. I don't think I've been in that position before because working in labs for so long, it's a lot of women there. So like everyone getting pregnant, we were all around the same age, and like every year someone else would get pregnant, and they would all be happy for them, but it was just it was a norm a lot, work when you work with so many women. But yeah, so it's a refreshing change now in this new department.
It's so interesting that you say your family member that I think it's your aunt that asked you if you were having kids, and she was like she asked you if you're how does your husband feel about that? It's like do people not think that couples have the discussion prior about kids, prior to them even getting serious about each other as far as the relationship or marriage? Like, exactly. I just think it's kind of a funny question. So have you thought about getting any procedures done if you currently do not have one, and to make sure that you definitely don't have any children?
I haven't. So I know a lot of people, well, maybe a lot, but a significant amount of women have the bilateral salpingectomy. I have an IUD. Okay. And that's what I feel most comfortable with myself having. I haven't looked too much into the other surgeries or like the permanent sterilization surgeries. They kind of scare me a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I haven't really looked into it much since I'm not really interested in it. But yeah, IUD is away from me for now. But now that I'm getting older, I'm happier that I'm getting older. So then my chances of getting pregnant are less. But yeah, I'm just hanging out with the IUD for now.
And if we can kind of go back to your family previously, I think I skipped the question about your relatives. So when you first told your parents that you didn't want to have any kids, what is their initial reaction?
Oh, so just so everyone knows, my dad passed away from cancer back in 2003. I'm pretty sure he probably wanted me to have kids too. But my mom, she's been like hardcore. So I'm sure her religious background has a lot to do with it. She's like hardcore Catholic. We grew up Catholic. But she has always loved babies. Like motherhood has been her thing. That was her goal since she was younger, like forever and ever her entire life. And I'm like the complete opposite. So I remember we were in the kitchen at her old house, and I was in my very early 20s. And she made one of those comments like, "Oh, well, when you have kids, you'll see what I mean." And I responded very quickly, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not having kids."
Mm-hmm.
And she said verbatim, LT, verbatim, "What's wrong with you? You're crazy, and you'll regret it."
Mm-hmm.
Like right after the other, and I was like, I didn't even answer. I was like, okay. And then later on, we were eating, and she was like, "You're so selfish." And then she's like, "Pregnancy and having babies is a miracle of life." And I was like, okay, that's great. I'm not negating that, but I'm just saying it's not for me. So she was absolutely livid that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to have kids. She was probably thinking I changed my mind at some point. She didn't ever say that, but I was early 20s, so people change their minds, and it's just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 34 now. And I think she's gotten the point that's probably not going to happen. She'll still make comments every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were at sometimes when my brother has the birthday parties for his kids, we'll be there, and she'll say, "Oh my God, look at all these babies here. You guys need to have a baby." And Jordan and I are like, "No, we're not going to do that." Or we saw a lady she had like a small like SUV car, and she was packing her stroller in there with her baby. Or no, she was changing her baby's diaper in the back of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all rolling up for the birthday party. Mom was like, "Oh my God, look at that car. You have a little SUV too. You could do the same thing, change the baby's diapers in the back." And we were just like, the F are you talking about? Like, no, there's no reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll like sprinkle little comments here and there, but she's gotten a lot better about saying stuff like that. So I'm appreciative of it. And now she has like 3 grandkids now. I think I'm kind of off the hook. She can like pay attention to them. So
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, and let's see. Can you share any other child-free experiences with dating prior to you meeting your husband? Like, how was dating for you being child-free before you got with him?
it was interesting because my early, let's say like late teens, early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
when I'd be talking to guys, I like never really mentioned that I didn't want kids. Actually, because it wasn't until my early 20s when I said it out loud to my mom where I was like, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't really having any serious relationships. Like the first serious relationship I had, he was like very ready to be a father. Like he would make comments how after, I remember we were in the car, like I remember like it was yesterday, dude. We were going somewhere and he's like, "Oh, and after I graduate, I'm gonna get you preggers." And in my head, I was like, for
Mm-hmm.
me, that's not a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me anything good, like it's a threat
Mm-hmm.
because that's not what I wanted. I mean, I messed up because I never communicated that to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think thinking back now, it was probably unfair knowing that I didn't want that route in life, and he was very gung ho about it. I ended up breaking it off, obviously, because it was not for me. But yeah, it's just important to communicate that with your people. And a lot of dudes out there, like we've seen, they probably want to be dads,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not right to string them along or make them think that they can change your mind about it. It's better to just be straightforward. So like, and I had talked to guys who like had kids or whatever, but if it wasn't gonna be serious, I was like, whatever, I never met the kids or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or I even had an ex-boyfriend who we went out to lunch once, and he was like, "Oh, how do you feel about being a stepmom?" I think he had 1 or 2 kids. He's like, "How do you feel about being a stepmom?" And I was like, "No, this is not going anywhere, honey. Like, get that off the table now."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like dating it's a mess, or it can be a mess. It can be good, it can be bad, but it's important to bring it up at the forefront, like first, second date, that hey, I'm not, kids aren't for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then see how it goes from there.
Okay. Well, first off, congratulations on your marriage. I saw earlier on your Instagram, I saw pictures of your wedding, so congrats on that. Can you go over how did you meet your husband?
Yeah, so Jordan and I met in New York City. So remember, I'm from Tampa. I moved up to New York City in like 2012 or so, and we were both microbiologists working in the same lab.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we met. We were actually friends first, and it blossomed into what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was like maybe our first or second date. We were hanging out at his apartment, and I was like, "Hey, so how do you feel about kids?"
Mm-hmm.
And he had it's very like ambivalent answer. I think he just like shrugged his shoulders, and I was like, "Perfect," because this is
Yeah.
gonna work perfectly fine. But that was probably one
Mm-hmm.
of the first times where I actually brought it up in the beginning, where
Mm-hmm.
I was, all right, we need to be on the same page, or there's no reason for us to go forward. So,
Mm-hmm.
luckily we stayed the same over the years. I checked in with him maybe a year ago, and then again now, and like every now and then it's okay to check in. Hopefully, it doesn't change his mind, but you
Mm-hmm.
can't control whatever people how they change. So yeah, so far so good.
Okay,
Child
awesome.
free.
Awesome. I was just about to ask you when did you have the conversation about kids? You mentioned that earlier. So,
Very good. Very good.
so okay. So I think when it comes, especially when it comes to being a minority woman. I think society has rules and maybe having some kind of agenda when it comes to certain topics or issues. So what are your thoughts about the child-free women that are portrayed in society?
I think I like this question because even when you think about TV shows, if you've ever seen a child-free woman character in a movie or a show,
Mhm.
they always present them as like this. I'll use the word selfish, like arrogant. Sometimes they hate kids or they can't stand being around them.
Mhm.
Very career driven, which
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with any of these things, but they portray it as something negative almost.
Mhm.
Like they don't want to be around family, they don't have time for anything. I forgot what show my mom was watching, but one of the characters, her daughter was like that. Like
Mhm.
she was dating some dude or whatever, but she was like just very, she just wasn't like a nice person.
Mhm.
And I was like, why didn't they show them as like the cool aunt or just being a really good mentor or a role model in someone's life rather than this lady who's like who's very cold, doesn't care about anything.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I feel like we're not represented that well. Or even sometimes, Chelsea Handler has like some of the best reels I have seen about like the news anchor guys or whatever who are like
Mhm.
talking trash about us, how we're so sad and bitter. We're no like, there's nothing important in our lives.
Mhm.
So I think there's definitely a shadow cast upon us that we're just not the best people out there for whatever reason. And I
Mhm.
think that's why social media is so important right now, where we can like, have our Instagrams out there and just blowing up everyone's feed with reels and posts about how our lifestyle is just as worthy and just as fun and fulfilling as anyone else's,
Mhm.
of course, as parents or whatever.
Mhm.
So I think we're making moves because I
Mhm.
know there was I follow Marsha Drew Davis. She's like in her 80s and she was like a huge child free advocate back in the 70s where she lost her job. She was a teacher and she
Mhm.
lost
Oh yeah.
her job. Yeah, so she said she was like child free and people were like, oh my God, like she was freaking most evil person in the world.
Mhm.
Um, I think we've come a long way from that,
Mhm.
but we're still in the trenches and fighting for representation that matters, that doesn't cast this shadow upon us that we're like some evil witches like walking around
Mhm.
doing bad and like hating children. So yeah, it's better than it was before, but there's still work to do.
Okay. Um, Let me see. So women normally have a certain window to produce a child. And have you thought about if you ever were to change your mind in the future, do you think that adoption may be a possibility?
That's a great question. For me, no. I've thought about it and I was like, no, because if I adopt, I'm just taking on responsibility as if I was a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, people can change their minds, but adoption is, I don't know like the ins and outs of adoption process, but I know it's expensive and it's lengthy
Mm-hmm.
and it can be stressful. So I wouldn't even want to partake in the journey of adoption in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But what I maybe would like doing is participating in some kind of like volunteer mentorship program for kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Big Brother and Big Sister programs and stuff where I can be a role model for someone without having the like full-time responsibility over a child, but
Mm-hmm.
still leaving an impact on someone by just being like a good role model.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably look more into that first, then going into adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's a lot of responsibility. It'd be like the same as parenting, so I don't think I would do it. So someone has told me that before when I told them I didn't want kids. They're like, "Oh, if you change your mind, you can adopt." I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, I guess." It's still expensive. So
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I'm so glad that you mentioned about taking on the responsibility and also being a mentor because I don't know if you follow me on YouTube, but I do mention I talk a lot about parents who regret having kids, and it's like why are people not taking the initiative to be like, you know what, let me see if kids are for me first before I start planning a family, and that's why I
Mhm.
always mention for people to either volunteer somewhere, see if there's like a boys and girls club or a big brother or sister
Yes.
program they can get into, see if they want to babysit, if they have younger siblings in their family or friends
Mhm.
younger children, see if they can babysit for a day or two and see if they want that responsibility. So because I'm reading a lot of stories and it's like people who are like, yeah, this parenthood is not for me, and they always want to get out of their marriage or relationship, they want the other
Mhm.
partner to have the parental responsibility and they want to get out of it, and it's like, a lot of people are creating all these broken homes, and it's like I wish that people would just really take the time and just see if parenthood is for them. So I don't know, some of
Exactly.
the stories I read is just sad.
Yeah, and even just like working somewhere. I worked at a summer camp before. It was like for one summer. I worked at a summer camp and I was in charge of like the 6 to 8 year olds, and I was just like, just in those couple of weeks, it was a lot. I mean, I was basically a babysitter. I had to like entertain them all day and do little activities or whatnot, take them to the pool, and just that responsibility in itself, I was like, man, I don't know how people do this 24/7. Like, yeah, the best thing you can do is really immerse yourself in the world of parenting or working with kids to really get a taste of what it's like. Because we see all these like glamorized, like romanticized pictures on Instagram. Well, look at my kids and Christmas Day with freaking matching pajamas. That's all great and cute. But what are you doing the other 24 hours of the day? You're taking care of kids. So yeah, I think the best thing you can do is really get experience, or even like talk to the parents to see how it really is to be a parent.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So, what child-free stereotype do you not fit in? Because they say, of course, like you mentioned about people being selfish and all that kind of stuff. So, is there a stereotype you don't fit in?
Actually, the one I don't fit into is a travel one. I feel like, or even being like wealthy or like super rich. I mean, we're comfortable, but I think people think, oh, well, if you don't have kids, you must have like all this disposable income on you. It's not always true. And then that a lot of us want to travel, or a lot of us do travel, which is true. Jordan and I are not one of those people.
Okay.
We're gonna leave the house in July, and we go to Disney and Universal a lot every year. I don't know if that counts. It's like an hour away. But we're leaving the house, so I feel like it does count. I think a lot of people think that we party a lot, and a lot of the time I'm at home sleeping, napping, reading a book, watching TV, hanging out with my mom. Very like calm, chill, laid back. Selfish, yes, I am selfish. I don't want to take care of anyone else. I barely want to take care of myself sometimes. I don't want to share my snacks. These are all like the petty reasons, Like I don't want to share my snacks. I don't want to cook for anyone else. Life is kind of a chore already. I don't need to do anyone else's laundry, and I'm already doing my own. Some people think that all of us hate kids. I don't. I'm really good with kids. I enjoy being around them. Mostly like under 10 years old. When they get into like the preteen stage, you're kind of like, too cool for school. Some with younger kids, and I love being the cool aunt and hanging out with my niece and nephews. What other stereotypes do we have? Yeah, I would say those. I'm selfish and I'm proud, and it's better for me to be selfish and child-free than selfish and have a child and have them suffer for it. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's perfectly well said. So some people may think that if you don't have kids by a certain age, that something is wrong with you. Or I know most men who are child-free, they get questioned for their sexuality. So so how do you respond to people like that? They may question. I think you mentioned earlier that they ask you something's wrong with you or something like that. How do you answer that?
I saw a post, I can't remember which Instagram account it was, but they had an amazing reply to basically any kind of bingo or personal question that someone asked you about being child-free or having kids. Let me find it really quick so I don't like mess it up. But basically, when someone gives you a question like that, what was it? I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. But it was basically, I'm surprised that you're comfortable asking me a personal question like that. And you just kind of leave it at that. So it puts the ball in their court, but it also lets them know in a passive way and kind of like, you're not being rude or anything, but you're letting them know that they're overstepping their boundaries with the question. And then they might be caught off guard, like, oh, maybe I am being mean, and hopefully they apologize for asking. But I thought that was like such a great, I'm surprised you feel comfortable asking me such a personal question. And then you can just go ahead and say, I'm not comfortable asking that. But if you're comfortable, like for me, like I said, sometimes it depends on the vibes in the room and how many people are there and who I'm speaking to. Where I just say, I've decided that route is not for me, or motherhood is not for me. And if they want to keep going at it, I can just close down the conversation. Like, you don't have to talk to anyone. You don't have to explain your reason to anyone. I know the people who, I don't know if it's the best way to go about it, but they'll lie about it and they'll say, oh, I can't have kids. Just to make the other person feel bad, and maybe they'll never ask anyone else again. But at the end of the day, you get to answer however you want. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. You can be aggressive. You can try and be nice about it, but you don't have to make yourself uncomfortable because someone else wants to get up in your grill about your private life.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I know we discussed prior, I probably should have asked this earlier, but about being child free in the workplace. So have you personally experienced any kind of discrimination being child free? Like, let's say if you always had to fill in for a coworker who always had to come in late or leave early or anything like that, or they always would, anytime you request time off or vacation, they will always question you or little stuff like that. So have you ever faced that at the workplace?
Honestly, unfortunately, I can say that has not happened to me. I did have a coworker in the lab, my most recent lab job, where she had twin girls, and she would be like late to work and stuff, but it never really had any effect on me. Like, 'cause we always had like our own separate responsibilities to do each day.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing really like fell onto me or
Mm-hmm.
our other coworker when she was late, or sometimes she had to leave early every now and then. But I've also been blessed with good coworkers where they'll pick up the slack if they need to. Like she would even, if we had work to do on a Saturday for some reason and someone just had to come in, she
Mm-hmm.
lived close to this, so she would actually volunteer to come in.
Mm-hmm.
So I've worked with like some really great parents who weren't the type who were like, oh, I gotta go, like you gotta, pick up my slack.
Mm-hmm.
And even like at least the labs that I've worked in, vacation was super organized.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to like pick your vacation like 6 months in advance or something ridiculous like that.
Mm-hmm.
And at least for me, I never got caught in that, oh, well, like I have to be with my kids for Christmas, so you need to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been really fortunate that, at least off the top of my head, that hasn't happened to me. Just because I didn't have kids, I had to pick up for someone else or anything. So it's been good, luckily.
Okay, good, good. So there's a lot of conversation about legacy, which I feel that is more for men than maybe for women. So what do you think your legacy will be like?
Um, I think legacy can be anything you want it to be, from as simple as being a kind human being and
Mm-hmm.
being compassionate and helpful to others and understanding. It can be being an awesome wife, a caring daughter, a fun sister, the cool auntie, the godmother. Legacy can just be a memory of you. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be your bloodline or your DNA going off into the world for centuries to come. Because at the end of the day, nobody freaking cares.
Mm-hmm.
I see it a lot on Instagram, like, unless you're the freaking like king of England,
Mm-hmm.
nobody effing cares about how many sons or daughters you had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Name your great 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 grandpa. No one gives a shit.
Right.
Nobody's wondering. Maybe you, if you do like the Ancestry.com or like the 23andMe,
Mm-hmm.
but aside for you, no one's hoping or wondering if you're gonna have boys or not. And it's funny because we were at dinner with my brother and his in-laws, and we were talking about kids, of course, as always. And I think, so my sister-in-law was pregnant with baby number 3. She was still pregnant at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And her mom made some kind of comment, and she's like, well, at least it doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl because you already have your boy and he can pass on the family name.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, who effing cares?
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a friend of mine who, his mom being good to him, because his brother has 3 girls, and she's like, oh, well, you need to have kids so we can have a boy to pass on the family name. And I was like, why do people care so much?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, I guess, I don't know, your family instills these beliefs in you and these traditions or whatever, that societal norms. You kind of keep the bloodline going, but yeah, for me, it doesn't really matter. You can make a legacy in so many different ways. I have a teacher, my favorite teacher had her in 4th grade, and I remember during recess, after recess, we'd all go back into the classroom. She would turn off the lights and she would read books to us for like a good half hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
Like all these funny jokes, and she'd give out candy and we got right answers. And I just remember having such a great time in her classroom. And I feel like that's right there. She's a lesbian, so she's not having kids.
Okay.
She's still around nowadays, but I was thinking about that the other day, where you can leave an impact or an impression on someone without them being your child.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
In someone's memory, you still live on. So I don't think you have to have your DNA floating out in the world to have a legacy.
For sure. And just last question. So what advice would you give to somebody who may be on the fence about having kids and they're getting pressure from family or society or things like that? What kind of advice would you give them?
I think we touched on this really well earlier, where one of the best things you can do is literally just talk to people who are parents, talk to people who are child-free. Social media is a great engine for you to find like other people who think alike, either they're fence sitters or child-free. So just search hashtag child-free. You'll find me and a bunch of other people.
Oh yeah.
I'm like posting stuff. And there's a book that I read maybe a year and a half ago where there was like this little period of time, LT, where I was like doubting my decision. I don't know why or where it came from. And I was just like, I was diving hard into social media, Childfree Millennial, my Childfree journey were some of the first accounts that I found. And I was listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks on being child-free. Because I was like, okay, am I making the right decision? Like, what am I doing? I'm getting older, whatever. It's just like a good month where I was just like just going crazy for no reason. And I found this book, and it's called The Baby Decision. I don't know how to pronounce her name, by Merle Bombardieri.
Okay.
Anyways, it's literally helps you make the biggest decision of your life. And basically, she sets up all these different kinds of situations that you can find yourself in, whether you're planning to be a parent or situations that could happen after you have a kid and you end up a single mother, single father, or whatever, like all these different scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I didn't even make it like halfway through the book. There's a lot of like mental exercises where you ask yourself questions and put yourself in the position if you had a child and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. So I made it halfway through and I was like, cool, that like solidified my decision.
Oh, for sure.
It just gave me like that mental clarity where I was like, oh, there a lot of stuff goes into parenting, and that book really like organizes it for you, where you really sit down and think about it. Is this for you? This is your decision. It's not your parents who want you to have kids. It's not your grandparents, your friends who it seems like what everyone's doing it. You don't have to. And even if your significant other, if they're fence sitters too, go through that book together. I think it's designed to go through by yourself or with your significant other. So she really like tries to tie in every freaking possible situation that can go on if you're thinking of parenthood. So I think that book is great for fence sitters, or even like me, I was child free, but I was having like these weird seeds of doubt. I think that book is great. And again, like all the social media accounts and stuff, or even can you hang out with parents? And not when it's like all fun, let's go to Disney and like, oh, Christmas shopping, whatever.
Yeah.
It's we're sitting in the house on a Monday evening and it's time for dinner. Have you ever sat around the dinner table trying to feed toddlers or trying to feed them lunch? Because I've seen it with my own eyes through my friends and at my brother's house. It's freaking chaos to get a toddler to eat. It's like you're sitting at the table for a freaking hour and a half trying to, negotiate with them, eat your chicken nuggies, and you can watch like whatever kids are watching now, Peppa Pig. So it's not easy, it's glamorized a lot.
It is.
It's the mundane, the regular days, the in and outs, the homework, the soccer practices. It's a lot. And you're the one who's going to be in that position taking care of them, because the grandparents, you got the village, right? Some people have the village.
Yeah.
But the village won't always be there, or they won't always feel like being there because they have their own too.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it before. Go on Facebook. I know Facebook for like the older people now, whatever. Go on Facebook and go onto the page, I regret having kids. Or is it I regret having children, or I regret having kids? I regret having children.
I think it's children, yeah.
Yeah. And that is very eye-opening because there is no glamour in there. And you've been in there. It's just raw and real and very realistic of the things that can happen if you're stepping into parenthood. It is the biggest decision of your life. And I think parenthood is one of the most important jobs in the world.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of responsibility, and it's just you have to decide for yourself, not for anyone else, if it's for you. Especially if you're a woman. Because you know how it is. You're doing most of the work. You may have a super dad or a Mr. Mom, which is great. The parents in my life, the dads are great. But at the end of the day, it takes more of a toll on the woman. So, keep in mind if you're doing this.
Oh yeah, especially taking a toll on women. Yeah, physically, mentally, it's definitely takes a toll on everybody. So it's just, I see other women in my family, and it's like, oh my gosh, like how do they do it? Like I just cannot. Yeah, and like I say, if we gotta be selfish, it's best to be selfish without a kid than to be selfish with one. So for sure. Okay, so So that's all for the interview for today. I just want to say thank you so, so much for your time. And like I said, I'm so glad that I reached out to you. And like I said, I've been following you probably since earlier, beginning of this year when I saw your page on Instagram. So I was like, oh, Childfree Latina. So I just find it very interesting, especially being women of color, that we are out here in the Childfree community, and we also have a voice here. And I'm just so grateful that I'm so grateful and thankful that you decided to come onto my channel. So I just want to say thank you so much. And did you want to go on to say anything that you want to promote, anything that you're doing right now, or where people can follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me at Dania, DANIA.CFC, which stands for Child Free Crew. So come on through Instagram, join the crew, and let's have some fun and enjoy our lives.
All right, awesome, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. And I hope that everybody who's watching today, please go follow her on social media. She is hilarious. Her skits that she does, and also with her husband, is hilarious. So make sure you guys follow her on social media. So if you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Please comment down below. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Follow both of us on social medias. I'll put her information as well down in the description box. And without further, and just want to say thank you once again for all your time. So also, please make sure that you guys follow me on YouTube. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know exactly when I upload. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.